Hi guys, it's me. I am trying to figure out this technology. You guys know I'm not very good at it, but I am here on Monday, President's Day, in my house because my kids are sick, but we have stuff to learn, so I am trying to get your lesson up, and let's see how this goes. Okay, so we're starting on electron configuration, and what you're going to need to have out for me is you need to get that periodic table that we called periodic table number 5. Get that out, and you want, if you have, like 4 either colored pencils or highlighters or some way to indicate the 4 sections on the periodic table that we're going to talk about. Alright, so go ahead and get that together or I'll write this out. Configuration. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, you can see me now, but you're not going to be able to see me the whole time because I'm holding my tablet up and trying to write on it, which isn't very comfortable. So when I lay it down, it's probably going to be the ceiling. But I'll pop my face in there and keep you on your toes every so often. But just be aware because I'm only so talented. Alright, so we're going to talk about counting electrons. And we have to talk about how many electrons we have and where they are, what their energy level is, what sublevel they're in, what they're doing, what's their orientation, and so on and so forth. So we're just starting, and so what I want you to do is I have the periodic table number 5 in here too, and let me zoom it and make it big so we can see it. Okay. Now, I said you needed 4 colors because we are going to divide our periodic table into 4 blocks, which means like a block is like a square or a rectangle. So if you take a look at your periodic table, you have to try and visualize where you can fit all of the elements together into 4 very distinctive blocks. So take a look at it for a second, and I think most people easily see this down here as a block with no problem. That's one. And then lots of times these transition metals are seen easily as a block. There's another one. And then we have this little section over here, do not include helium. And if you imagine helium just sort of fill in that space right there, it'll make a little bit more sense. And then you'll have your 4th block over here, and helium is right in the middle. I'm sorry, not right in the middle, right there at the top right of that block. Alright, so we're going to name these because they have a special name. This one that I highlighted in yellow, and you don't have to do yellow, just whatever color you want to do is fine. This is called our S block. Let me zoom out just a little bit because my font is too big. Alright, this is called our S block. If you're going, think about counting the periodic table in numerical order. So we have hydrogen, which is number 1, and then helium, which is number 2. We have lithium and beryllium, which are 3 and 4. And then right over here is boron, which is number 5. He's next in line. So after the S block comes the P block. And if you keep counting and going through your numbers, the next new block that we enter, because we're going to go from P back into S and back through P and so on and so forth, we end up, once we get to number 21, we run into the transition metals, and this is called your D block. And again, keep counting, and down here you have your F block. Okay, these are the current blocks that we have on the periodic table for the elements that we currently have. Now, we also include after F, there is a G, and it goes on alphabetically after that, G and H and so on and so forth for elements that currently aren't configured on the periodic table. But just be aware that they're there, and we'll talk more about that when I get back, because we won't talk about imaginary elements unless I'm there to kind of help you not have a panic attack. Alright, so we're going to talk about S, P, D, and F. Now, when we are putting in our elements into their arrangements, then what I want you to think about is counting. And all you have to do is count. Atomic numbers go from 1, and then go to 2, and then go to 3, and then go to 4, and so on and so on and so on. It's like reading a book. You don't skip all over the periodic table. You always start at the top left, and you read from left to right, top to bottom. And you read your periodic table the same way you read a book. And if you can remember that, then you can do what we're about to do. Alright, so what I want you to take note is before we can get started, this is like playing a brand new game. You have to learn all the new rules. So at first it's confusing, but then after we get going, I think you're going to be just fine. So just hang in there and don't have a flip out on me because I can't help you one-on-one until I get back tomorrow. Alright, so what I want you to do is take a look at the S block. Now how many columns, remember columns are our groups that go up and down, how many columns do we have? There are only 2. Alright, so let me get a different pen. There we go. So we have our S block. Hold on, I have a problem with my screen right there. It's kind of weird. Alright, the block type. And then the maximum number. There we go. Of electrons. Alright, and it correlates to the number of columns that are in that block. So our S block has 2. If you count them, 1, 2. There's only 2, so I can only put a maximum of 2 electrons. There's that crazy writing that my screen does. Y'all get used to it. I can only do 2 electrons in the S block. Then when I come over here to the P block, count the columns. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can put a maximum of 6 electrons in my P block. Count your Ds. If you count them all the way across, I guarantee you, you will get 10 columns because that's how many there are. And that's a 10, not a 6. Hold on. I can't find my eraser. Oh, I don't know. I have an eraser. I don't know where it is. Alright, 10. Not a 16. I'm just making it worse. Scratch it out, start again. 10. That's better. Alright, now, F block. If you count down through across your F block, every single column, there are 14 of them. 1, 4. Alright, so we're kind of getting somewhere. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, we have maximum number of electrons in each block, only 2 in the S, 6 in the P, 10 in the D, and 14 in the F. That's numero uno. We've sorted out our blocks, we've figured out our maximum number of electrons, and now we need to count. Okay, well before we can count, I need to tell you something. Here we have some space, so I will tell you right now. You're going to lose my picture for a second. I'm sorry. I'll be back in a minute, but I got to lay this way so I can write this out. Alright, so here's the deal. For every energy level added, you add a sublevel. I left the E out. There we go. Now add means in addition to, not something brand new all by itself. It means it includes everything that you've had prior to it. And what I mean by that is I have energy level 1 and I have an S sublevel. Sublevels are S, P, D, F. And remember we talked about energy levels the other day. Energy levels are represented by a lowercase n, and they are 1 through 7. And those are the rows on the periodic table. Those are the side to sides. Okay, so at energy level 1, and that is going to account for hydrogen and helium, it's only the S block. So then when I go down to energy level 2, I add the next sublevel, which means I have an S, and then I have to add the next one, which is a P. Okay, I went from 1 to 2. Now I go down to energy level 3. When I'm at energy level 3, I still have an S, I still have a P, and now I have to add the next one, which is D. You go to the next one, because remember we go up to 7. We have 4S, 4P, 4D, 4F. It continues. Go down to 5S, 5P. I'm going to fix it there. 5D, 5F, and then I'm going to change the colors because after 5s is a 5g. It does not exist at this moment in time. All right, now this will continue, and I'm running out of space right here. I actually have a snapshot of this further down I'm going to scroll down to in just a second. But then you're going to have 6, and then you'll also have 7. S, P, D, F, G, and then H, which is also imaginary at this moment in time, and then the same with the 7. But we don't actually use all these sublevels, and you'll see in just a minute. But I want you to keep this in mind, what I just told you here, because it's going to change the way we number our periods on the periodic table once we get into the D block, and you'll see, because I told you guys the other day that once you get into the 3rd energy level, things start acting weird. Okay, so here is that I was just talking about, and there's arrows in it, and I will explain the arrows in just a minute. But this is what we were talking about just a second ago. Well, if your teacher can handle this, we'll be good. Oh, I did it. Okay, so this is called the Aufbau series. And it shows you 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, p, d. And now they don't put the imaginary sublevels on here, and that's totally legit and awesome. I don't normally put them on there because it's just nonsense. Because there's no sense in you having to worry about something that doesn't exist. And also there are these arrows that are shooting through here, starting from the top going down, and that's showing you the order in which you fill your energy and sublevels. And so many moons ago, when I was more of a traditional teacher, my students had to, every time they took a test or a quiz, would duplicate this Aufbau series on their paper, and then you would have to throw the arrows going through there and start filling up your energy levels and sublevels according to this rule. And so I'll run through it with you so you are somewhat familiar with it and you have seen it, but then we're not going to use it. So don't have a panic attack, but I do want you to be aware that this is here, because if you switch and go take AP with a different teacher next year, or when you go to college and you take chemistry, they're probably going to do it this way. And I will show you another way, but just hang tight. All right, so how it works is you start at the top, and you will follow the arrows down. So you're going to fill your 1s energy level first. Then you go to the top of the next arrow, which is here, and you follow it down, and ooh, that was neat. And then you are going to fill the 2s energy level next. Go to the top of the next one, you fill 2p and then 3s. And so far this is all making sense. We're going up by energy level and sublevel. But right now, right when we go to the top of this next arrow, we start to go down and hit the 3p. Notice what comes after 3p is not 3d, it's actually 4s, which is why when we were drawing those board diagrams the other day, especially first period, and I was trying to eliminate anybody that was at energy level 3, because I said, oh, they do weird stuff, this is why. They actually go and fill up that energy level 4s first, which is how they end up with those 2 valence electrons before they do anything else. But then, after 4s, you come up here to the top of this next arrow, and follow it down, and you fill in the 3d, then the 4p, then the 5s. Back to the top of the next arrow, and it repeats. So I'm not going to keep telling you because it's a pretty common thing that's happening. So you would follow it down, and you would start filling in all of your energy levels and sublevels. Well, that's great. However, that gets a bit confusing, and it's a bit tedious to write this out, and if you don't line everything up just the right way, weird things will also happen, and you come into issues. So just renumber your periodic table. That's the easiest way. So let me zoom this big again so you can see it, and I'll have to kind of write small. Alright, but remember where I said every time we increase an energy level, we add a sublevel. Energy levels are the numbers 1 through 7, and sublevels are the S, P, Ds, and Fs. If you can remember that, then you can remember this, and I think for most kids this is easier to do. If you want to do the Aufbau series, please do it. If you want me to go over it with you more one-on-one, I will do that as well. It's not an issue. Just come and see, and I will help you with it. Alright, but energy level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have, this is sublevel S. Energy level 1, we have an S, a P, I'm sorry, that's so not true, I don't even know what I just said, I was supposed to be counting. at sublevel S, we have an energy level. There we go. 1, 2,